Welcome back to another episode of Awkward Christian Questions. I am your host, Drew Dick, and I'm joined, as always, by my awesome and lovely co-host and wife, Grace. Hi, Grace.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, I'm so awkward.
Good to be back. Okay, so today we have another Awkward Christian Question that is not only awkward, but is also controversial.
Ooh, I'm ready.
We'll see if we get in trouble for this. But I think it's a good one, and the question is simply this. Should Christians visit a mosque? Should Christians visit a mosque? And I will say this. It is not just a hypothetical question. I was actually recently asked by a good friend and neighbor about visiting his mosque. He's a Muslim, and we were just having a conversation. He's like, "Hey, Drew, you should come with me to the mosque sometime." And all of a sudden I realized, wow, I'd never really thought about whether I should go to a mosque or not. And so I had to think through that because there are all kinds of considerations as we'll try to hash out here. And we've had some really fascinating conversations about God and religion and Jesus with these friends of ours that are neighbors and good friends. And one thing that struck me were just some of the surprising similarities. For one, I remember he asked me at one point, he said, "Hey, do you guys believe that Jesus is going to return to the earth and judge the world?" And I was like, yes, we do. Of course we believe that. And so there are some surprising similarities that a lot of Christians actually don't know. Like Muslims believe that Jesus was sinless, that he was virgin born, that he is going to come again and judge the world, things like that. But then, of course, there are some crucial differences as well, important differences. So, Grace, I'm going to turn to you in a second. I want to hear what you have to say. And this is interesting because we haven't really had this conversation.
We haven't.
Before now, so we'll get into it. But I will lay my cards on the table. I would be inclined to say yes, that I'll visit a mosque. Now, that's not a prescription for everyone. I think it depends a lot about, how long you've been a Christian and what your level of comfort with that kind of thing is. But I will say this is my caveat, that if I do go to a mosque, I would rather go as an observer rather than a participant. For what I just said, because there are crucial differences. So I'm probably not going to be, doing the prayers, bowing to the ground and kind of taking part in the worship. But I would be, I think, quite comfortable watching the proceedings, and it would be very interesting. And of course, ultimately, I would be doing it because of an interpersonal connection,
Right.
Wanting to be a good friend, be a good neighbor, to learn more, and to deepen the relationship. So that's the tack I would take. Grace, set us straight. What should be the response to this?
I actually totally agree with your take. I think that for some people, God would call them to fully understand the religion of Islam and to understand their Muslim friends and what their beliefs are. I think that it would be like, you'd almost kind of have to be particularly called to that. And I agree with you about going as an observer rather than a participant, because we want to respect their religion too. And if you're going as a full participant, that might not be fully respectful of their beliefs. I know that, like, for example, as a Christian, if you go to take communion and you're not a believer, that's actually against our beliefs.
Right.
So there are certain practices involved in worship that I guess I would need to fully understand. Also, as a woman, I think it would be very different going to mosque than as a man.
Great point.
Because there are things that you have to do, like you'd have to wear a hijab, I believe. I don't know if you can just be an observer. It might be disrespectful to just be an observer. So I guess I would need to, for me personally, I would need to kind of know what I was getting into before I agreed to an invitation to a mosque.
And understand the protocol.
Understand the protocol.
And that's a great point about noting the differences in visiting a mosque between being a man and woman, because my understanding is that it's kind of a separate experience. Women and men, at least at most mosques, observe different practices, stand in different places. This is what I'd be nervous about personally, is that you have to remove your shoes. And I don't know if my dogs are ready for prime time. So I'd want to make sure
I can
that
pretty
they're
much
covered.
guarantee that they're not.
They're probably not. Maybe I haven't clipped my toenails recently enough. I'd want to make sure I have some good socks. So yeah, you'd want to know the protocol and know exactly what you're getting into.
Right.
Well, that's interesting. So I don't think we've solved it, which is a little disappointing. I blame you. But we have a great guest coming on here that we both know, and Tim is going to sort all of this out for us.
Yeah, Tim's going to offer some great perspective. He's, worked and ministered alongside Muslims for a long time, and I think he's going to offer a unique perspective on this issue. But I guess one thing that I'd like to emphasize is that it's really good to fully understand where your friends and neighbors are coming from and to understand their beliefs. So, not just strawmanning people's opinions or belief system, but really trying to fully understand it might include going and visiting their place of worship. But I don't think that that's something I would advise all Christians to do, because there are a lot of Christians that need to be more fully rooted in their faith as a Christian believer first. We don't want to do religious tourism.
Yeah, that's good. That's true.
So, and ultimately, I wouldn't want to be disingenuous in visiting a mosque. I have a different view of Jesus than they do.
That's right.
And ultimately, frankly, I hope that they come to an understanding of Jesus that is more similar to mine, because I think he's the answer and he's the access point for God.
Yeah.
So out of respect for my own belief system and theirs, I would just kind of want to make that clear coming in.
Yeah, that's good. No, absolutely. That's important to say, because I mentioned some of those similarities we have when it comes to Jesus, but there are super important differences as well. Like, they don't believe Jesus was even crucified, let alone raised from the dead. Right. They don't believe he was the divine Son of God. So there are huge differences. And so, yeah, ultimately, I would be doing it for interpersonal reasons, wanting to be a good friend and neighbor and keep those lines of communication open. And I should say, too, that the neighbors that we've mentioned,
they're amazing.
Amazing people, put us to shame. When it comes to hospitality and being community and family oriented, it's like a rebuke as a Christian sometimes, especially as a Western Christian. We don't do that as well as many Muslim communities do. And I remember one year they brought us baklava for Christmas, and I just thought that was so cool. They don't celebrate Christmas, but they knew that we celebrated Christmas. And so that just touched me. Awesome people, just some
really
of the kindest
love them.
people.
They're some of our best friends. But yeah, I mean, and I really believe that they have an authentic faith, and it's good to try and understand their perspective. And I think God has called certain people into fully understanding that.
Yeah. 100%. Well, cool. I think we shed a little light, even if we didn't answer the question for everyone. There may not be an answer for every single person. Like you said, you don't want to be like a new Christian and going and visiting all these different places of worship. That could be disorienting and confusing. And yet for some people, especially that are called to engage Muslims, that very well may be part of what God's called you to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about this next section because it's a new, a little bit silly section that I'm calling Red Flags. Okay. Just red flags. And today we're going to be talking about relationship red flags from the Bible. So if you've never heard the term red flags in the context of romantic relationships, people will say like, okay, if someone has controlling behavior, that's a red flag. Or they're crossing your boundaries without your permission.
Or if they're doing something awesome, like making you laugh every 5 minutes, like you did when we first met. That's a green flag.
That was a green flag. Come on. Yeah. But these red flags are biblical red flags. Okay, so how can you know from Scripture whether you might be with the wrong person? The first one is this. This is a red flag. If your wife wakes you up in the morning by shouting, "The Philistines are upon you," that's a red flag. You ruined it for everyone. No, yeah, that's right. That's Delilah. So yeah, you ask Samson, that's definitely a red flag. Although I will say, Delilah missed a few red flags too. Like when your man eats honey out of an animal carcass, that's a red flag. Or if he has a habit of slaying people with a jawbone, that's not good either. Run the other direction, girls. Okay, another red flag. If you meet a young woman who's holding a tent peg and she invites you into her tent for a nap, not a good sign. That's a bright red flag. That's right. Okay, and if you didn't get that, if your biblical knowledge isn't like amazing like ours is, you will know that is Jael from the Old Testament. And if she offers you milk, that is another bad sign. If she's holding a tent peg, because I think that's how she coaxed the dude into the tent. And then, yeah, you know what happened. tent peg through the head.
You know what, though? There's this little kid at church, and her middle name is JL, and I'm like, that's kind of awesome.
Wow, that's a baller move from her parents.
It was kind of a baller move. I was like, that girl, she's going to be fire. Like,
For whoever dates her in the future, I would be a little bit careful. Okay, another biblical red flag. If your husband has 699 other wives and 300 concubines, big red flag. Yes, that's a problem. You might want to reconsider the relationship, even if he's very rich and very wise. That's Solomon, by the way.
Solomon doesn't have enough money.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have enough money to get away with that. Okay, last red flag. Man, I feel like we are, well, no, I guess we've had guys and girls in here. Another biblical red flag. If your wife pressures you to worship the Tyrian god Baal Melkart.
That's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. And if she kills the prophets of the one true God, watch out. That is a big red flag. She will not change. Do not stick around that relationship. You cannot change her. Your relationship will go to the dogs.
Ooh.
Oh, did you get that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. I'm proud of that one. That's a dad joke right there. Of course, we're talking about Jezebel. You know what? I've noticed, like, no one names their kid Jezebel these days. Is that why?
I've run into a few, actually, and I'm like,
Really? So it would be like Jezzy for short? Okay.
I don't know.
That's-
I don't think
oh.
people know the history, maybe.
Yeah, if they do name their daughter Jezebel, I mean, you've either got to be like a committed pagan of some sort or just blissfully unaware of the history. Okay, so those are red flags. Don't say we didn't warn you. If you ignore any of those, it's on you. And now, oh man, isn't this amazing? Newer podcast. We're just barely getting into this. And every week we have a sponsor.
It's incredible.
It's incredible, literally incredible. But this week, the episode is brought to you by Jerks for Jesus. We're an apologetics ministry that takes a pugilistic approach. We make great arguments for the faith, but we like to throw in a little insult every now and then just to keep people's attention.
Are you a founding member?
For instance, the cosmological argument for God's existence is compelling, but wouldn't it be better if you said the fact that the universe is fine-tuned for carbon life forms points indubitably to the existence of God, unless you're a moron? See, that just hits different, right? So go to apologetics.com/you idiot and sign up for our workshop today, unless you have a room temperature IQ.
That's
Man, they
you
sound
idiot. You idiot.
they sound like jerks, but I guess that's the point. Okay, well, I am delighted to have my pretty longtime friend, Tim Cowley, joining us. I have to give a quick introduction of you, Tim, because people probably won't know who you are. Tim is not only has the honor of being friends with Grace and I, but he is an integral part of this podcast because he's actually like our producer and does all the technical stuff. So anything that should have been edited out that wasn't, it's his fault. He also helps us like dream and scheme. He's a part of this thing. So we're excited to take this journey together. In addition to that, though, Tim has done for years was in overseas missions. So I thought he'd be a great guy to talk to about this awkward Christian question of whether Christians should visit a mosque. So Tim, let's just get right after it, man. I'm going to put the question to you, then we'll kind of dive deeper into some of the details. Should a Christian visit a mosque?
This is a good question.
I love the pause.
Yeah, it's like this. Should a Christian go to a church? Okay, now that might sound controversial. Of course we should be at a church, but you likely landed at a church after visiting several other churches. I say that because, all mosques are different. And so I think there are many good reasons to visit a mosque as a Christian, but there are reasons why not to. And so it's good to kind of dive a little bit deeper into what are your questions, I guess, what are your intentions behind visiting the mosque?
Yeah. So, okay, that's a great thing to differentiate. So what would be good reasons for a Christian to visit a mosque, in your opinion?
Yes. So let me just say my journey into being okay with visiting mosques really came through receiving training as a cross-cultural missions worker where I was going to a Muslim country. Well, not a Muslim country. I actually went to Southeast Africa, which is very Christian, but there are Muslim peoples that live there. I went to serve with the Yao people. in Malawi and Mozambique. So kind of northern Mozambique. No one knows really where that is, but if you think of Madagascar, thanks to the movie, it's kind of like on the mainland continent from there. And so, as part of my training process, we actually went to a mosque in Tempe, Arizona for the first time, which was right near Arizona State University. And so there was a group of us. I don't know what they told them when we showed up, but we were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and kind of curious. And it was just a lovely time of actually kind of participating in terms of observing. We weren't there saying we want to be Muslims.
Right.
And that's, I think, an important context, is to say, look, we're here as learners. We believe in God. We love that you're in our community, and we want to be able to see how we can best understand, how we can love you better, how we can see what your religion teaches you. And so from that context, I think that there's a lot that can be said for entering into a mosque. Now, it's good to know there are different mosque opportunities. There are Friday prayers, which is the version of Sunday service, basically, where there is going to be an imam, a leader that's going to give a sermon. And so I think it's great to go there because, for one, they're going to be speaking in English, generally to you if you're coming from a North American context. And so you can then hear what they're saying in their sermons and be like, you know what, this was kind of full of love and community kind of speak. I'm used to this kind of thing. Because when I've heard sermons, there's very little that I disagreed with.
Interesting.
When you're, okay, so I know we'll get in later probably into what it looks like to enter a mosque, but since we're still on the reasons why, I think there's a lot of respect that it shows to your Muslim friends. And I'm assuming you're going to be interested in going to a mosque, maybe based on a relationship that you've made in your community.
Right.
Because a lot of us now live with people from other places. There is a very global world around us now. And so if you're in a place where maybe you are completely alone and you are just kind of going on a field trip by yourself, I would say there's definitely some research involved to see which mosque you might want to attend. Are they used to having people who are visitors? Do they know what to do with you? Do they know how to, can they give you somebody who's your tour guide to be like, here's where you take off your shoes. Here's how you enter the men's bathroom. Here's how we get ready. Here's how we, snuff water up our nose and blow it out, to cleanse ourselves. Because, when you go to a church, you don't go straight from your workout or from the farm. You're going to go
Speak for yourself.
Dressed up. That's right. I've seen you in church. You're not that bad. So I think there's a lot of good reasons to go.
Well, that's great. So you mentioned some of the positive reasons to go to a mosque. In your case, you kind of went for educational purposes. How about some of the not so great reasons that might motivate a Christian to go to a mosque?
Yes. In this case, I say my reasons are a few bullet points shorter than the why you should, or why you should at least consider it. I think a lot of it, again, comes down to your heart. What's your heart posture? Are you going there to try to proselytize? That is not the place to do it. It's a good place for learning. It's a good place for establishing maybe some relationships that you want to develop into good relationships that you can not see as your project, but as actual people that you love and care for. Obviously, we want to see everybody worshiping in front of our Creator God, and we want people to be loving Jesus and serving Him. But nobody wants to be a project. And so I think that has to be the posture. And so if you're going with those intentions of, I'm going to go in and I'm going to share the 4 spiritual laws, or I'm going to just win them over with my apologetics material, that's not the place to do it. And I would say, don't go.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, just imagine the reverse. If a Muslim came into your church and they want to argue about theology on a Sunday morning, it's like, whoa, hey, we're happy to do this. This isn't the time or place. Yeah.
There's that little phrase, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Who said that again?
Kind of works well in this context. I think also, the Holy Spirit has to be consulted in everything that we do. And I would say, the Holy Spirit knows more of what's happening. I think certain mosques might have different elements attached to it. There could be different political things going on. There could be different spiritual things going on that we're not aware of. Try to listen and be in prayer with the Holy Spirit and communion with the Holy Spirit, because I think that will help you maybe know. And if you're not comfortable with it, try to understand, is that comfortability and not comfortability, is that something that is there because of the Holy Spirit, or because I'm just not very adventurous, or
Right.
because I have these preconceived notions that I'm going to be going in there and they're going to be talking about jihad or something, and I'm going to be the only guy going, wait, I better get out of here. So I think also I would say the same thing about some churches. Like, there can be bad spiritual elements attached to certain churches that I would say that's probably not the place to go if you're wanting to learn how to be a follower of Jesus. But I think it's a lot easier to look at Islam and at Muslims as a they're cousins, really. If we think of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they come from an Abrahamic faith of a creator God. They do believe in the person of Jesus. They do believe in the holy prophets. Their stories in the Quran are going to be a bit different, from what we're used to. So they're going to call them by Arabic sounding names. But they definitely would say that they love and believe Jesus, but they don't believe that he would be the Son of God.
Okay, that's really interesting. And it is, I think some Christians are surprised. Of course, there are crucial, important differences between Islam and Christianity and our beliefs, but they're surprised at how much overlap there is. I remember my neighbor asked me at one point, we were having tea, and he's like, do you guys believe that Jesus is going to come again to judge the world? And I'm like, yes, we do. So do we. He said, he was actually surprised to learn that we believed that. So that's really interesting.
Yes.
Now, okay, so as far as just practical details, again, all mosques are different, but what can someone expect to encounter? Like, you referenced it already, like taking off your shoes. That's unusual. And is that something that everyone should or has to do? Do they separate men and women? What are some of the things you can expect just practically if you do show up for Friday prayers at a mosque?
Yeah, well, I often think of what is the context in Malawi and Mozambique among my Yao friends. What is their picture of what a Christian is? Their picture is there's somebody that worships with their shoes on. They sit down when they pray instead of kneel or sit on the ground. They eat pork. They drink alcohol. And they create pornography.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. So sometimes it's shocking because they see, if you are in a Muslim context, you a lot of times have grown up as a Muslim. You were born as a Muslim. Your parents are Muslim. Much more than someone who converts to a different religion. So to them, they look at a place like America or Canada and they say that's a Christian nation.
Right.
And so therefore the things that come from that place is more or less Christian, right?
Yes.
So I think you have to break some of those stereotypes. And obviously if you're meeting Muslims within your context in North America, they're going to already have learned many of those misconceptions are wrong. And so when you go to a mosque, Islam is not a religion that tries to change a lot with the times. They tend to try to be quite rooted in original versions. And so there's a lot of talk about a desire to try to pick up with the times and things like that. But by and large, a lot of these things have stayed the same through, 1,000+ years.
Yeah.
So when you go to a mosque, now it's good to remember there's going to be different kinds of mosques. In our area, I believe there's 8 mosques in the Portland area. So some of them are going to be more Bosnian, others are going to be more East African, Somali. The one that I have visited over toward Beaverton tends to be a lot of high-tech professionals because it's based over there near Nike and Intel.
Yep.
And so they are very used to getting all kinds of visitors. And so I found it's a great place to take visitors and say, hey, we're here to learn. We want to know when is the best time to come. And when you get there, you can usually meet the person you've been in touch with, or maybe they will put you in touch with someone who will be your tour guide. And they can say, hey, look, here's where the shoes go. And you can see people taking off their shoes. Just follow their lead.
Follow their lead.
Yeah. And then from there, they'll separate the men from the women. So I know my daughter, my wife, others that we have taken who are women have had just such sweet times of getting to enjoy being with women who are worshiping at the mosque as well. But the guys separate. They're doing their own thing. So just kind of they'll help lead you into the bathroom so you can clean up properly. You clean your ears, you clean your nose, you clean different parts I won't talk about. Maybe there's there's this process of purification that just leads you then into a place of being able to worship as they see it. So,
And do the women wear head coverings?
yes. I think this probably is highly dependent on context as well. I mean, modesty is something that is very different culturally, as you know. And where we were in Southeast Africa, modesty looks very different from the Middle East. I would say take a head covering with you if you are a lady going to the mosque. You might luck out and there might be some there for you to borrow. I know that that's been a thing sometimes. And just try to be very modest in your dress. You're not trying to wear stuff that shows off your curves. You want to, just fit in well. Don't go in shorts, men, women, go dressed up as if you're at a job site or something that might be a little bit more business casual, let's say, if not more than that. Because it's always easier to go dressed up better or dressed up more than recognizing that, oh no, I really need to cover up. So
That's
one
a good
time
principle in general.
we were in Malaysia on a furlough coming from the Philippines, and we had not done Muslim ministry yet. And we were like in shorts and t-shirts, and my wife felt so embarrassed in Kuala Lumpur where everyone was Muslim walking around in these beautiful flowing robes, and she felt like a skank. I mean, it's all cultural, but we should have thought of that.
That's the normal American outfit, right? If it's nice weather, you're wearing t-shirts and shorts.
Yes. So going back to the mosque, once you're there, the men will be lined up in rows, and if you're with a friend, they will just be with them, and they'll show you what to do. There's basically a time when you'll be prostrating yourself to the ground. This is showing submission to God. They're going to be saying a lot of things under their breath or sometimes out loud in Arabic, which we don't speak, so you don't have to say anything. You can just observe.
Okay, but here's a question with that. Okay, so if you're prostrating yourself to the ground, is that being a participant rather than just an observer?
I think that's a great question. In my case, I have never gone in and said, I'm going to sit in the back and watch. I believe that would probably be totally fine. Right. I think I tend to be a bit more adventurous and daring and maybe less of a theologian to try to see, am I crossing a line? Now, I don't want to cross a line, but as someone working with Muslims, I had this line in my head of like, I'm not going to say anything about Muhammad being the prophet or being his prophet, because I feel like that would be crossing a line personally. But again, this is a controversial topic, and it should definitely be on Awkward Christian Questions.
Well, no, and it's good. You're right in what you said earlier about discernment, about the Holy Spirit, right? And it's going to depend on each individual, where it's like, okay, what do I feel comfortable with? What violates my conscience? I think that's important. We have really good friends who are Muslims that live a couple doors down from us, and it's so interesting to learn just about some of the cultural differences. Like I remember them telling us, we were over at their house, and they'll always offer you tea right away. And they were saying that in their culture, if you don't offer someone tea within like a couple of minutes of them being inside your house, it's basically saying like, I hate you and I want you to get out, right? So then I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I don't know if we've ever offered you tea. And they said, no, we totally understand. American culture is totally different, but it was just, a unique quirk of their culture. In your interactions with Muslims, what are some of the unique cultural things that you've learned just hanging out with them that North American people that maybe don't have that kind of exposure to them should know?
I love that story, Drew, because after living 13 years in Muslim contexts, as we try to reintegrate into American society, and for my kids, this is their first integration, really, apart from being visitors. It's jarring when someone comes to your house and you offer them water, tea, coffee, and they're like, no, I'm fine. It's a slap in the face. Yeah. You are offering hospitality and you want them to accept. And I don't care if you're not thirsty, accept.
Right.
Go with your best gut. Whatever they love to provide, they want to treat you as a guest. And I feel like, Christians have a concept of hospitality, but we're very individualistic in our society here. And so I can't speak for Christians that come from a context in other places of the world where hospitality is valued like that. But I just think food and drink is such a beautiful way of blending your souls together. Even if you don't know each other, you have that time to just sip tea slowly or eat a little bit, whatever they provide. That time is, you're not supposed to fill it up with conversation the whole time. I think as Americans or as North Americans, we can feel like there should be no quiet moments. But living overseas, we recognized, hey, it is totally cool to be silent for long periods of time. And it's just that you're together. Your heart is with their heart. And I feel that that's something that we have no clue about in our go-go society here. So culturally, yes, accept hospitality. If you want to have the best food of your life, get a Muslim friend.
Oh man, I can testify to that, man. We've eaten more baklava and all kinds of awesome food because of them. They're just incredible. That's cool. Well, hey, this has been really enlightening. I think a lot of people, this just came up for me recently when my friend asked me, like, hey, you should come to the mosque with us sometime. And I'm like, can I do that? I don't know. But then, I started to think about it too. And I don't know if I'm going to go or exactly when yet, but if you want to invite them to church sometime and you're saying, hey, you should consider checking out church or hanging out with Christians, and you're saying that I wouldn't consider going to your place of worship, that doesn't seem quite fair. So that's another aspect to all of this. If you want them to be open to learning more about Jesus and about Christian faith, and you're not open to learning about their culture, their faith, that can be a roadblock. So, well, hey, thank you. Anything else you wanted to add? I love the description you have, how hospitable they are, and just the warm welcome that you get. I have found that to be true myself.
That's yeah, totally. I even just a couple miles from your house, I remember a couple years ago, I took some students from a local Christian university, as well as some friends from church, to go to a local mosque around Eid time, when their celebration is of the breaking of the fast. Is a beautiful time to consider joining in the festivities, because it's a beautiful time of eating amazing food and just being together with people in the community. I would say that's a great place to start. And people are wanting to share their hospitality with you. So it's already this invitation that you just have to know is there. And so I remember that time hanging out in I think it was a converted church that had become a mosque, just in Vancouver, Washington. And it was a beautiful, sweet time. I think some people are even still in touch several years later.
Awesome.
So I think,
I
think
think you don't
you're
have to go
in
to
for
the
a
Middle
good...
East too to find
No, you do
Muslim
not.
friends. Absolutely.
You do not. Just keep in mind, there's so many cultural differences based on where someone is from. And so just be a learner, be careful. I would say, if, try not to eat pork with them, try not to bring out a beer and say, hey, you want this? And yet some, you'll learn over time that there's differences. And so just try to be sensitive.
Yeah, that's good.
Shut up and be sensitive.
Shut up and be sensitive.
Yeah.
Good advice for many contexts. Oh, Tim, thank you. Thank you. This has been super helpful. Definitely an awkward, sensitive topic, but you've shed a lot of light on it, and I appreciate it. We'll do this again. Awesome. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Well, we're cruising right along here, but we have come to the end of our episode, and it's time for the final word. So this is going to take me down memory lane. I remember studying comparative religion a little bit back in the the early 2000s when we were in college. And I remember back then the dominant view among people in the field, and actually in the culture, was that religions were all essentially the same, right? Sure, there might be like different names for God and different practices, but if you drilled down, you would find that all religions are just different paths that lead to the same place. Well, that's not true. And even now, interestingly, most scholars of religion admit that. Like, I think of a book, Stephen Prothero, I think is his name. He wrote a great book on this topic called God is Not One, that makes the case that no, there are essential differences between the great religions of the world. And we may even start in the same place. Like, we find ourselves in this big, bewildering universe, and we ask questions like, why are we here? Like, where are we going? Where do we come from? Why does the world seem so broken? Why is there pain and suffering? But then the answers to those questions often lead us to very different conclusions. And like we were saying earlier, I think it's okay to admit this when we're talking to friends of other faiths. You know, the expression, good fences make for good neighbors.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, like clearly defining the differences between your beliefs is important for getting along and having fruitful conversations. So this is my encouragement. Don't feel the need to flatten out all those differences. Christianity is unique, as we know. I remember someone reading about C.S. Lewis, and someone asked him at one point, what is the one thing that's different about Christianity than any other religion? And he said, that's easy. One word, he answered, grace. I'm not talking about you, honey, but grace, the theological concept. Because, you know, this idea, it's unparalleled in any other religion, that the God of the universe becomes this person in Jesus, dies for us, and then through no act of our own, we are granted salvation. That is something that is completely unique to Christianity. So don't be ashamed to tell people how Christianity is unique. And then, of course, live out that message. The best apologetic for the Christian faith is still a life transformed by Jesus. Okay, well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please leave us a rating or a review on Google or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, unless it's a terrible rating. If you're going to go 1 star and make a comment about my hairline.
Show us some love.
Show us some love. We want some love. Or, you know, you don't even have to do it online, too. You could go door to door in your neighborhood and tell people about the podcast. That's what I'd rather. It would be awkward, but...
That would be a little bit unusual, but, I mean, sure. Go for it.
Hey, it's called Awkward Christian Questions, and that would be awkward.
That would.
So thank you for listening. And until next time, stay awkward.
Thank you, guys.